Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:07 on this incredibly busy Wednesday morning in your nation's capital, the 7th day of September. Thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company, but I'm flying solo today. Julie Gunlock, for reasons out of her control, or unable to come into studio today. There's a bit of a disaster there in her neighborhood in Alexandria that rendered her without power and rendered streets shut down. And she's fine, but just a nightmare over there. So she'll join us again. Trust me, everything's fine there. But we've got plenty to get to here as we're joined by Representative Brandon Gill of Texas, one of our favorites. Freshman. I can't believe you've only been in Congress for like 8 months now, Congressman Gill. It seems like you've been there. Probably seems like longer for you. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me on. You know, it's been a packed 8 months. It's been an honor to be here.
Well, listen, you're also very effective, and you've gotten quite a bit done, and you've got a lot on your hands. I first want to sort of look ahead to the day that you're about to have with Kash Patel, the FBI director, before your oversight committee yesterday in the Senate. It sounded a little like this.
And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
That's Kash Patel laying into Adam Schiff, the freshman senator from California. Do you now? Are you going to say something to tick off the FBI director? Because now that you know what he's capable of, I would hate for you to be the target of such lamentable language from the FBI director.
You know, it's actually good to see Kash defending himself here and defending the FBI
and the bureau. Yes, exactly.
Attacks.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it, but you know your colleagues. Do you think that they're getting ready? They're sort of loading up and ready to lay into Kash today.
Oh, I'm sure they are, and that's exactly what I would expect of them. I would expect them to try to turn this into a circus about whatever topic they think is going to be the most politically advantageous to them, or wherever they think they can attack the president the most with. That's going to be what they're coming at. They could care less about oversight of the FBI. They could care less about crime in D.C. or the great things the FBI is doing to take in terrorists who came across our southern border illegally over the past 4 years. They could care less about the transparency that he's bringing to the FBI or about how he's pulling back the gross weaponization that we saw under the Biden administration, whether it was targeting traditional Catholics or moms who were concerned about the content that were being taught in their schools or anything else. So I expect them to turn this into a circus. But you know what? Kash is a sharp guy. He knows how to handle this. He's been doing a great job. So I'm excited to see this.
And by the way, it was just revealed by the Judiciary Committee yesterday to coincide with these hearings that the FBI under Christopher Wray during the Biden administration had subpoenas out for something like 60 different conservative organizations, including Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA, on a fishing expedition. This was all authorized under Jack Smith, the special counsel, as a fishing expedition to find some sort of criminal behavior from Donald Trump. That's incredibly disconcerting, and you would think that lawmakers would be more worried about that kind of overreach and intrusion.
Oh, you would. Really what we saw was an FBI under the Biden administration who identified who their political enemies were and then took the Soviet line of, you tell me the man, I'll find the crime. And that's what we saw time and time again, whether, again, it was going after Christians, going after parents, going after conservatives in this case. Yeah. And it's a method not only to intimidate and stifle dissent against the Biden administration, but also try and embarrass conservatives, find something that they've done wrong, and target them. I mean, it is such a disgusting practice and gross weaponization of the Biden administration, just targeting their political enemies. So that's what I'm thrilled that we've got Kash, who understands what was happening, and is actually, riding the ship here.
Yes, amen. Listen, a couple of other quick things I want to get to with you. First of all, you're sponsoring the D.C. Juvenile Sentencing Reform Act. I know that you're very intent on assisting the administration, the Trump administration, in trying to get law and order back on the streets of the District of Columbia and common sense reforms to what the district council and the mayor have been doing with regard to just looking the other way and actually passing laws that encourage criminal behavior. But specifically about juveniles and sentencing and the way they have expanded the definition of a juvenile in the district, that needs to be fixed. Tell me about this act and how much support you have amongst your colleagues.
Yeah, well, first of all, I would say just broadly, we've got to remember Washington, D.C. is the capital city of the most powerful country in the world, and it ought to reflect the glory and grandeur of the most powerful civilization that has ever existed. It shouldn't look like a third world war zone, which parts of this city do. You should be able to walk down the streets in our nation's capital and not have to worry about getting mugged or murdered on the streets, and that is not the case, or hasn't been the case recently in certain parts of this city. Yeah. So what this bill does is we're clapping down on juvenile crime. There's a real problem. I'll give you a specific example. In 2021, there's an Uber Eats driver, Mohammed Anwar. He was carjacked by two juveniles, one of whom was 15 years old at the time. And during that carjacking, they drove away with his car. He held on and he was murdered. They murdered him. Now, that girl, who was 15 years old at the time, knew full well what she was doing, but she was tried as a juvenile in Washington, D.C., and is going to be released whenever she turns 21 years old. So it's 6 years in juvenile detention for a murder. That is reprehensible. That is not justice.
Yeah.
What this bill allows prosecutors to do is to try juveniles for the most heinous crimes, murder, sexual assault, burglary, armed robbery, things like that, as adults. Currently, the cutoff age is 16. It lowers that age to 14. I think that is just certainly necessary. Over half of carjackings in the city are done by juveniles. Oftentimes, these are juveniles who are repeat offenders, repeat violent offenders. This is a problem. So we're going to clean up our city, and this is one way to do that.
Great. Well, I appreciate that, and stay on it. I know you've mentioned it before on this program, and it's critically important that we get D.C. under control. Congressman, I've got two more quick questions for you. I know that you've got an out at some point here, and I'll make sure you're out in time. But stick with us. We just need to take a quick minute for traffic. It's 8:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
There's cut 26 here, if we could, real fast.
Not only cruel, but counterproductive, too. Most incarcerated people return home.
That is Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton, the oldest Democrat in the House. I think the oldest member of the House, although she's not really a member. She's a non-voting delegate, criticizing and slamming the bill written by our guest, Brendan Gill, who is, by the way, the youngest Republican in the House. She says you're lying about D.C. crime, but, I mean, you're not, are you?
Of major cities across the country, D.C. has the fourth highest murder rate. And Democrats want to pretend like this is a safe city. Well, maybe it's safe if you're on Capitol Hill and you're within the Capitol complex and you're surrounded by Capitol Hill police. That's a safe place to be.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the city, it's not. And they know that.
They do.
And I find it particularly disgusting. And we saw this on the floor debate just yesterday, that they want to frame this as a racial issue somehow. They want to try to claim that locking up criminals doesn't make the community safer. I mean, these are insane things to say. And they know it, and the American people know it's insane.
Think about the insidious nature of the charge, though. It's like I want to have harsher sentences on criminals and carjackers, and they say, "Oh, well, you're racist." Who's the racist in this equation? Yeah, you're talking about criminals, and they immediately say, "Oh, so it's a black thing." Congressman Gill, real fast, a couple of things. Yesterday, this hearing about, the government controlling the weather, to put it frankly. What did you learn here? What really popped out at you during this hearing?
Yeah, my biggest question, whether it's geoengineering or other types of weather modification, cloud seeding, and there's still a variety of open questions as to what the longer term impacts are. But think about this as whether you have cloud seeding, which is usually putting a substance in the sky which condenses water cloud to form clouds, which eventually causes rain in certain areas. It's sometimes used for as kind of like a novel form of irrigation. I guess that's one way to think about it. My biggest question here, which I think we've got a lot more work to do to really understand, is what are the second and third and fourth order impacts of that? You think of the butterfly effect, which is kind of the foundational principle, in chaos theory, that whenever you change initial conditions in a complex system like weather, there could be long-term impacts and consequences that are difficult to predict.
Yeah.
You change it's illustrated with the concept of a butterfly flapping its wings, and that rustles the leaves on a tree, which then makes a bird move, and then more and more impacts, and then eventually there's a tornado on the other side of the world. It's a hypothetical example, but I think that's sort of how I'm thinking about weather modification. I think it's something we need to study and understand a lot more, which is if you seed a cloud in one area, what does that do to a complex weather system in other parts of the world?
Fair questions that need to be asked before we start jerking around with these things. Finally, Congressman Gill, and I know that you got to run here, but I mentioned you're the youngest Republican in the House. You're a freshman congressman. You're 31 years old. You're the same age as Charlie Kirk. I'd just take a moment to reflect on your relationship with him. I know that you had connections with Turning Point USA and with Charlie, and what this assassination has done to you in terms of your outlook as a public figure, your family, and just the pause that it gives everybody as we still try to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, I knew Charlie. We're the same age. We've got kids that are roughly the same age. I can't say I was close with him, but did know him and had worked with him in the past. Mm-hmm. Absolutely horrific. I mean, this guy, it truly is an American icon, a titan of the conservative movement, and was able to do it at such a young age. And the thing about Charlie was he did everything right, which was not only did he go into the lion's den to left-wing college campuses and set up a table, literally, and just have anybody who wanted to debate him on just about any topic. That really embodies what a free society should be able to do, to have a robust political debate. But he not only did that, but he built a movement. He got young people involved in politics in a way that we haven't seen probably ever in American history. And he was extraordinarily successful at it. And that's why he was assassinated. Obviously, we know that. So it's absolutely horrific, but it does let us know, there is a problem in the United States with political violence coming from the left. We've seen multiple surveys show, just recently a YouGov survey, showing that about 25% of people who identify as very liberal in the United States believe that political violence is sometimes justified. I mean, that should be a terrifying statistic to any American who believes in our constitutional order, which sits on top of requires robust political debate. But that's something the left needs to come to terms with, and they need to deal with, because this is a serious problem. It's something we certainly have to deal with as well.
Well said, Congressman Gill. As always, Brandon Gill, thank you for joining us, and please, you stay safe and make sure that you redouble your efforts to stay out there, stay involved, stay outspoken, and make sure your security is redoubled, please. We need you. Yep. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It is 8:22.